All right, so let's get some more practice with multiplying polynomials when they're written in function notation. So on the right, I have two problems, f of x times g of x and f of x times g of x times h of x. So then I need to figure out, well, what is f of x, g of x, and h of x? Well, that's right here on the left. F of x is given by 2x minus 3. G of x is given by x minus 6. And h of x is given by x squared plus 3x minus 5. And I also just don't like how this looks, so I'm going to space this out a bit. So what's important to understand is that you're not doing anything new. We've been doing multiplication since the beginning of the semester. The only thing that's different now is what you're seeing when you're doing that multiplication. It's not just, oh, multiply 2x minus 3 times x minus 6. We're specifically saying multiply f of x times g of x. We're asking you to multiply these functions, okay? They're named functions, so f, g, h, so on and so forth. So first thing I'm going to do is multiply number 1, f of x times g of x. So that is 2x minus 3 times x minus 6. And I'm going to do this in box method and in distribution method. So over here for distribution method, if you remember, I just, maybe I should do that. Just don't look over to the right. So for distribution method, I'm going to multiply 2x times x minus 6 and negative 3 times x minus 6. Okay? And then that ends up giving me 2x squared minus 12x minus 3x plus 18. And now let's look over at the right. If you prefer box method, then what you would do is you write the one polynomial on top. So as you see, I have f of x written on top, 2x minus 3, and you write the other on the side. So I have g of x, x minus 6 written on the side. And then you just multiply x by 2x minus 3 and negative 6 by 2x minus 3. And either way, we end up with the same answer. So left and right, you compare them, we still end up with 2x squared minus 15x plus 18. Either way, we end up with the same answer. Normally, I do prefer distribution method because it just, for me, is quicker than setting up a box and all that. But, in box method, we can see it a little bit clearer, and the bigger the numbers are, the more terms we have multiplying, it's easier. So that brings me to number 2. Number 2 is saying f of x times g of x times h of x. That's a lot. I'm looking at these 3, and I'm like, oh my god, I have to multiply all 3 of these? That's a lot. So f of x times g of x times h of x. But then I realized, well, wait a minute. F of x times g of x. F of x times g of x. Isn't that what I just found? That's the previous answer. So as long as you did your previous one correct, you don't need to re-multiply that. You already did that. I already know that answer, and that answer is 2x squared minus 15x plus 18. Ooh, yeah, already got it. And h of x is given to us as x squared plus 3x minus 5. So even though I'm asked to multiply f of x times g of x times h of x, since I already did the work for f of x times g of x, I'm really multiplying 2x squared minus 15x plus 18 times x squared plus 3x minus 5. And this is when I'm going to use box method. And I think it's really important to use box method when you have so many terms. So this is another trinomial times a trinomial, which means it's going to give me 9 terms. So I'm just going to use box method. So let's multiply this. X squared times 2x squared is going to give me 2x to the 4th. How did I get 2x to the 4th? Well, there's a 1 coefficient here. So 1 times 2 gives me 2. And when we multiply the variables, we have to add their exponents. When we multiply the variables, we add their exponents. So 2 plus 2, oh, I did the spotlight thing again. 2 plus 2 equals 4. So that is where I'm getting 2x to the 4th power from. All right, so let's keep going. Change that pen back. All right. So 1 times negative 15 gives me negative 15. And x squared times x gives me x cubed. And so on and so forth. X squared times 18, 18x squared. If you need more in-depth about box method, you need to go back to when I taught multiplication. So you need to go back to those multiplication videos. And this would be 6x cubed minus 45x squared. And this would be 56. No, 54. 54x negative 10x squared. That was a weird 10. And positive 75x and negative 90. Okay. Sorry, I'm like pausing. I'm doing that mental math. So if you are not able to do the mental math of when you're multiplying these, 5 times 18, you don't know that it's 90, pull your calculator out and just multiply it, okay? No shame in doing that. Once we get to this step, we're going to recognize that the diagonals hold our like terms. So we have x cubed, we have x squared, and we have x's. And I'm going to take these lines away because they are terrible. All right, let me just do it one at a time. There we go. So, and now I'm just going to take it out. So I have 2x to the 4th, and then I need to combine the like terms for my cubic. So x cubed, 6x cubed minus 15x cubed. That's going to give us a negative 9x cubed. And again, if you're not sure about the math there, just put in your calculator 6 minus 15. All right, and then the next one will give us, oops, nope, I don't want to take that away. So we need to combine the squareds now. So we have negative 10x squared and negative 45x squared. So that's going to give us a negative 55x squared plus 18x squared. So my brain power, I'm going to plug in my calculator, negative 55 plus 18. And that gives me a negative 37x squared. I didn't want that in a different color, but I'll change it later. X squared. Oh, she was ugly. There we go. All right, so then I get 75 plus 54, and that's going to give me plus 129x, and then finally I have my constant negative 90. So my 129 came from this diagonal. And I'm going to change this to all purple. Okay. So that is our final answer of f of x times g of x times h of x. And it's a lot, okay? So you need to make sure that you do it step by step. Also, I've told you this before, but let me just make sure that we are on the same page. You cannot multiply these three things just straight out. You cannot. So I think some of you tried to do this. My computer is slowing down, so it's making it difficult to write. So just bear with me. I write all three next to each other. It's hard to know exactly how people do certain things wrong, so I'm not quite sure, but I'm going to speculate. I know that by some of the answers I saw that people were basically trying to do this times this and this times this. That's not going to work unless you do it absolutely correctly, and it just basically doesn't work. So just don't do it like that because you're going to end up with the wrong answer. You cannot do that. What you need to do is you need to multiply these two together first. You need to multiply those two together first. 2x minus 3 times x minus 6. Or you need to multiply these two together first. And I'm specifically talking about for a question for number 2 where you're multiplying all three together. It doesn't matter which two you multiply together first. It just so happened that for my question in number 1, I had already multiplied f of x and g of x, but let's say you weren't. You didn't already have that, and you were just asked to multiply 3 separate polynomials. you have to start by multiplying 2. So you could also have multiplied this one by this one, okay? But either way, you cannot multiply all 3 at once. You need to take your time and multiply 2 and then multiply it in again. So that's what I did here. I multiplied these 2 first, got my answer here in red, then multiplied it by my h of x, and came out with this answer. So please make sure you watch this and try and go back in and do your problems on your exam. All right, good luck.